let's talk about Yoko Tsuno, The Devil's Organ, and On the Edge of Life. These are, I think, from memory, originally books 2 and 7 of Yoko Tsuno, which is by Roger Leloup, and it's a Franco-Belgian comic, bande dessin, uh, and it is about a Japanese engineer who, with her friends, ends up in all kinds of adventures, and it's sci-fi fantasy. I mean, sci-fi. It does have fantastic elements, but really, it's a light sci-fi book, which sometimes heads to kind of slightly heavier stuff. Big on friendship, big on design, and I've reviewed it previously here. The Curious Trio, which is the first book overall, and is the first to deal with the Venetians, who are really a major part of this. There are 30 books, 40 books, something like that. I think it might be 40 now. Leloup is very old but published a book only in 2022. I don't know if he's still got if he's planning any more. But yeah, it was published in Spirou, and it starts. Leloup had worked with Hergé at the Tintin magazine, in the Tintin studio, but he moves to Spirou, and he starts. I talked about this in my review of Curious Trio, with this more cartoony Spirou style, and we'll go over that a little bit as we go. But yes, you start with the story about the Venetian aliens who are asleep in the Earth's core, well, not actually in the Earth's core, but nearby. And then we move to a different recurring character, and this is a big thing for Leloup, is recurring characters, recurring stories. And I will do another batch of reviews of some of the Venetian books, particularly because I've really enjoyed them. But these two, this is the first one that Cinebook published in English, On the Edge of Life. This is book 7. And then this is the 8th book. This is book 2. This actually introduces a key character for this, Ingrid Hallberg, who's German. And the reason why I think you get the publication order you do here is that this is a shift to the mature style that dominates Yoko Tsuno from then on. It's also a strong story with a lot of the both artistic and structural elements that people like about the books. This is earlier and a bit less rounded, and is also in an unrepresentative art style. It's in this Spirou style, and to quickly go over that, if you're not familiar, you see here that you've got this is a really good. Their friend Paul, he's got a kind of big comedy nose, and he's got big eyes. He never fully transitions to the new style. Actually, he always says a bit comical. But these kind of quite cartoony, in a neutral sense, not a negative sense, quite cartoony figures who you see. Yoko has kind of very expressive face in pictures where, like, there she's drowning. Big eyes are a regular thing. Big features on people, big noses, big eyes, big hair. These are common things, and it's even more notable. And you'll see this if you go back to the review in the Curious Trio, even by its book 2, or I think Devil's Organ is book 2. You start to see that change. Book 7, 1 in the English translation, On the Edge of Life, has shifted. You can see the difference. The cover is a perfect illustration, in fact, of this. You can see this very expressive and quite round face, and you see, there are some things that vary between styles, but also there's plenty of use of texture in the backgrounds. You can see a little bit there, but you certainly pick it up in some of the more complex backgrounds in the book itself. There's more texture, as simple stuff as cross-hatching, whereas in the Linclair style, most famous in Tintin, which Leloup had obviously cut his teeth on, and he's transitioned to here. He goes for the house style here, but by the time he's 7 books in, he's fully transitioned to something where you have these quite intentionally flat and quite heavily composed figures. They're quite painterly, and shading is quite limited. but backgrounds are very detailed. This is this odd thing where there is there's a lot of movement in this style and a lot of kind of shading, texture, etc. There's a lot less movement. It's a lot more static, a lot less directly expressive, though there certainly can be expression. But the backgrounds are very detailed, and this is a really good example for this because, and this is the thing you'll find this just reading up random summaries online of what Yoko Tsuno is like. Rottenburg is described, a city I once stopped for a day and had a steak in. But look at this beautifully detailed city, and you can see lots of pictures of the city. Oh, lots of pictures of the city. Lots of pictures of the city. Lots of detailed backgrounds. That is there even in the Curious Trio. You see that Leloup has a real eye for background. He has a Tintin eye for background. Go and read your Tintins for more on that. But you'll see it also in other protégés of Hergé, like Jacques Martin or Edgar Jacobs. There's a great amount of detail and care taken about backgrounds. But yes, you have this development of art style, and that's part of what's interesting here. Is you go for, this may be published first in English, but you read the two in order, and you see the natural development of the art style and of the storytelling. Here with Ingrid, but yeah, they save a young stranger, and she is, they basically find out there's some sort of bizarre pipe organ device underneath a Rhineland castle, and you see the kind of feel here. First book, aliens. Second book, pulp. A weird, potentially scientific pipe organ device underneath. You can see here what I was saying in terms of German backgrounds. Plenty of effort going in here to give detailed backgrounds at this point too, but also it's hard to get the figures close enough. You can see that when people are talking, it's a lot less realistic, let's say, the art style. And yeah, she becomes friends with Ingrid, and then sometime later she goes back to Germany, and we can see, there's an evolution in the way that Yoko is drawn. Here, for instance, her lips are not coloured. Her eyes are narrower and smaller. Her generally posing and figure, this isn't universal, but is more static. And I feel like Ingrid is possibly even more obviously like this in terms of and there's Ingrid asleep, so I know that's cheating in a way, but you can see Ingrid here again. You may be hard to see here, but her lips are desaturated. Her eyebrows are slightly less exaggerated here. She has these kind of very long eyebrows that if you had them, they'd be sticking up. They're like Rigel from Farscape or something. Whereas here they're a bit more in proportion. So you have this more realistic style in some ways, and something less colourful and less active style. You do get some movement. I give an obvious example here. There's a good jump, and as I say, and you've got the cat jumping around here. Movement is not impossible or banned, but even here in these action scenes, you have a lot of it, as I say, in this kind of painterly way of facial expression and composition of arms and things like that, rather than exaggerated dramatic movement represented in that kind of cartoony way that you might expect. Here, on the edge of life, her friend Ingrid is ill, and it seems like there's some sort of weird, someone who's attacking Ingrid maybe, but it doesn't seem like the person's trying to kill them, and Yoko investigates and basically finds a bunch of weird stuff going on. Again, the sci-fi thing, and it is much like with her Venean friend Canny. It's part of this story of one of her many close friendships with other women, and the big themes of family, a common theme of family, of every form. Biological family, found family, adoptive family, are very common in the Yoko Tsuno books, and I've read 10 of them now, I guess. So it's more or less every time this is a major interest of Leloup, and it might be more dominant than many other thematic concerns that some people might identify. But yes, the art is the backgrounds are always beautiful. I think by the time you hit the mature style, you have something which I should also say you get some yeah. Great on these Cinebook ones. You have some great sketch art on the back. You know, like just pencil art, not sketch art, pencil art by Leloup. Very beautiful black and white originals. And yeah, he is a great penciler. The backgrounds are beautiful. The science fiction is very inventive, and that's one thing. Is that though the plots are not always incredible, a difference, say, to compare to others in the same category which are more serious books, say Tintin, the plots in Tintin are a strength. There's always something happening. It's always clear. There's exciting things. There's always things you want to know. Ah, here's another, and some, and what you know. Here's another action scene. Tintin is very good at that. And say something like Blake and Mortimer, which though very wordy, always have these kind of deeply fascinating and twisty and turny stories. Yoko Tsuno is not always like that. There's a mystery, and the mysteries are fun, but very often you're obviously being brought along via a plot that leads you to care about the characters and leads you to investigate the world and learn about the world. So I think this is a world and character first set of albums. But with that caveat, you know, that you're only sometimes going to get a very strong plot. I think there are some. Neither of these is absolute top tier for plot, though I think artistically this is one of the best. I think you get some, like I think the Titans was one, or possibly one that I thought had a really strong plot. So sometimes you get a stronger plot. But if you like the idea of characters, if you like the idea of kind of genuinely interesting sci-fi ideas and continuity between books, that is seriously about character and seriously about the exploration of the ideas, and certainly that's true with the Vanayan books. You know, by that I mean the sci-fi ideas. Then these are good, and I'd certainly say of these two, this is a very good book. This is a decent book, and if you're not sure at all about reading any Yoko Tsuno, this is not a bad place to start. It's why Cinebook published it #1. But if you're more flexible and you're willing to experiment, you know, this is not a bad place to buy both of them. You know, buy 1, 2, and read them because they're only 45 pages each or something. And I think you will find yourself rewarded. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on these, I'd love to hear them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.